Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a concept from biblical texts that, honestly, just completely flips how we view reality. We're looking at what happens when, according to these texts, God opens your eyes. Okay, let's dive into this because this isn't just some dusty ancient history, it's a completely radical lens for viewing our everyday struggles and triumphs.
It's kind of wild when you think about it, right? Have you ever wondered why two people can walk through the exact same situation, the exact same hardship or career setback or triumph, and see completely different things? For one person, their path feels like a chaotic scribble of just random chance. But for the other, it literally blossoms with deliberate purpose. They see God's guiding hand where others just see pure coincidence. This huge difference in perspective really hints that there might be a whole lot more happening around us than we can physically see.
So what if the greatest miracle isn't always a physical healing? When we hear the word miracle, our minds naturally jump right to the spectacular stuff. We picture the seas parting, or the blind physically receiving sight, or the sick being instantly cured. And hey, those are absolutely profound. But we really need to challenge our preconceived notions of what a miracle actually looks like in everyday life. What if the absolute most life-altering intervention you could possibly experience doesn't actually involve changing the physical world around you at all?
What if the greatest miracle is simply seeing what was there all along? Throughout Scripture, whenever God opened someone's eyes, their life was never the same again. Not because their external circumstances instantly transformed, but because they suddenly discovered realities that were hiding right in plain sight. It wasn't their environment that changed, it was their perception. Suddenly, the invisible became undeniable. When you can finally see what was there the whole time, well, that internal shift is a true miracle that permanently rewires how you navigate the world.
Section 1. Beyond the visible reality, the illusion of the visible.
We naturally rely so heavily on human sight. It's like we're walking around with a magnifying glass, focusing only on what we can touch, measure, or logically explain, because, well, it makes us feel safe. But spiritual sight? It pulls all the way back to reveal the entire constellation. A lot of folks go through life thinking they're totally alone, believing every victory is just lucky chance and every provision is a total coincidence. But spiritual sight lets you recognize a pattern. You start spotting directed provisions, moments of protection, and, this is absolutely crucial, closed doors that actually saved you from harm. Suddenly, your life doesn't look random anymore. It looks directed.
And this brilliantly illustrates how appearances can be totally deceptive. When we judge strictly by what we see on the surface, we miss the actual reality. Just look at these stark transformations. Take David, for example. Historically, shepherds were basically at the absolute bottom of the social ladder, yet God saw a king. Or Gideon. The guy was literally hiding in a winepress out of pure fear, but God called him a mighty deliverer. And Peter, an uneducated fisherman who became a foundational leader. When your eyes are opened, you stop judging everything by mere appearances. You dig deeper, seeking a higher perspective on people and situations.
There's this incredible mini-narrative in Scripture about the prophet Elisha and his servant that hits the nail on the head. The servant wakes up one morning, looks outside, and sees a massive enemy army completely surrounding their city. Naturally, pure fear just grips him. From his visible human perspective, defeat was an absolute mathematical certainty. No way out. But Elisha, he doesn't panic at all. He just prays a really simple prayer. Lord, open his eyes. Now, imagine the sheer shock of that moment. The enemy army hadn't moved a single inch, but suddenly the servant realized the surrounding mountains were completely ablaze with heavenly armies. The situation itself hadn't changed one bit. The bad guys were still right there, but his vision had changed. Visible reality is not always the whole story. The problem didn't shrink, right? His view of reality just expanded. It perfectly proves that God's unseen resources always exceed our visible limitations and immediate fears.
Section 2. Redefining your true identity, the shift in self.
One of the biggest strategies used to hold you back is keeping you totally confused about who you actually are. If you're convinced that you are just your failures, you're going to live chained to them. But look at how those lies get completely struck out here. When God opens your eyes, you begin to trade the heavy baggage of past mistakes for the absolute freedom of grace. When God opens your eyes, you begin to see yourself through His promises, not your failures. When God opens your eyes, you begin to realize that your past does not determine your future, your purpose does. Embracing that truth changes the whole shebang when you step into your daily life.
Section 3. Valuing what lasts forever, the shift in the world. Let's be honest, most of us spend our lives frantically chasing temporary things. Money, status, recognition, achievements, you name it. And actually, scratch that. It's not that those things are inherently evil or wrong, but an open mind shifts your priorities toward things with eternal weight. Things like character, faith, truth, and wisdom. You stop trading what is eternal for what is temporary. And when that happens, your daily priorities and how you spend your time start transforming dramatically.
Because your priorities have shifted, you also start noticing divine opportunities that you used to just walk right past. And why do we usually miss them? Because they almost always show up in disguise. Where everyone else just sees this impenetrable brick wall of a frustrating challenge or some super heavy responsibility, spiritual sight reveals an open door. Spiritually aware people pull off extraordinary things precisely because they see stepping stones where others only see roadblocks.
This outward shift also completely rewires your relationships. We have this habit of looking at someone and instantly zeroing in on the lightning bolts, their flaws, their mistakes, their prickly exterior. We judge them so fast, but looking deeper means recognizing the rain clouds they're standing under. You start recognizing that every single person you interact with is fighting unseen battles. You begin extending grace a whole lot more freely. Your compassion, your patience, and your love, they all grow exponentially because you finally see the hidden potential, not just the messy surface.
Section 4. The purpose of delay. Preparation over rejection.
We all hate waiting, don't we? People so often assume that a delay means they've been completely forgotten by God or that a closed door is just ultimate failure. But now, what's really interesting here is how this timeline visually maps out the concept of waiting for some of the biggest biblical figures. Joseph spent years in a literal, brutal Egyptian prison. David spent long, hard seasons hiding out in the wilderness. Moses spent decades isolated in the desert. But these weren't dead ends. They were incubators for leadership. What feels like a super frustrating delay to you right now might actually be absolutely crucial development for something greater. When you start seeing delay as preparation, finding patience becomes so much easier.
Section 5. The ultimate miracle. Seeing God clearly.
So, what does this all mean? The text suggests that the absolute greatest miracle isn't seeing angels or solving deep mysteries or even spotting new opportunities. It's recognizing a presence that has been quietly, faithfully active in every single chapter of your life, through all the mountains and all the valleys. Not as some distant idea or a strict religious concept from an old book, but as a living, active, and loving presence. When you realize He's been intimately involved in your victories, disappointments, and struggles, the confusion starts to fade, fear loses its grip, and your hope deepens in a way you can't even measure.
The hard truth is, so many of us spend our days just pleading for our external circumstances to change. We want the bank account to grow, we want the relationship to fix itself effortlessly, or we want the job to suddenly become super rewarding. We just wait and pray for our environment to shift. But I want you to consider this. Sometimes the breakthrough you are so desperately looking for is not in changing what is around you. Sometimes the absolute biggest breakthrough is simply changing how you look at the massive boulder sitting in front of you. It's the life-altering realization that God has been working behind the scenes all along, closer than you thought and way more involved in your daily life than you ever knew. Changing your perspective, that is the ultimate breakthrough.
So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to carry with you today. When your eyes are truly opened, you don't just see new things, you see everything new, and that changes your reality forever. So the ultimate question this text leaves us with is this: will you ask, Lord, open my eyes, and begin to see the reality that's been there all along?